October, and we did receive the full $418,000 that was anticipated. We still have a little question about what's going to happen in 2021, but we did budget a little bit less. And also on here on my revenue report, I did throw in what we did budget for 2021 in there just for some reference. Down in 0291, the Public Defender Commission basically is where that money comes from. It's state and local public safety, intergovernmental. We have received now 4 installments of the Public Defender Commission, and we are a little bit short, $25,000 short of what we had estimated for the year. But of course, I think some of our expenses were a little bit less with what we went through during the spring and summer. And down in 0510, this is, if you would notice that from previous months, we've gained $100,000 there. And there was a distribution we received from, I believe it was the Secretary of State, the Secretary of State for $100,000. And this was restitution from the former clerk employee who had court order restitution. So that is, we've at least gotten some of our money back that was taken from us at that time a few years ago. And so we are right now at 70% of the revenue, and we are a little bit farther along than that in the year, but we also, of course, have property taxes that will come in December. Moving along into the fund balance report, the general fund is about $3.35 million, and that usually tends to go off until we get to settlement. So that's not a real concern there. Cum cap, we do have a negative amount there, and we don't like to pay any claims with negative amounts, but if you take about half of our levy, which we would receive in property taxes in December, that's $1 million. So we don't have a problem taking the general fund negative because we know property taxes come in, so cum cap we're treating the same way. It is still a fund of concern because the balance is not growing like what we would like. 1205 is the tax sale surplus, and just a little note there, we did have the tax sale, the property tax sale, which we have once a year, and money goes in here when properties are sold above the minimum bid, and so we hold this money until either redemption and then it goes back to the purchaser of the tax sale, or it goes back, if someone does lose the property, then that money above the minimum bid can go to the person who has lost the property. But anyway, we do have about $2 million that we brought in there, and it was a successful tax sale that we had over at the Long Center this time, which was a little different, but it was a good response of the people who were purchasers. Going down there at 2580, Court Services and Substance Abuse Fund. I just wanted to make note of this one, that this one has struggled because they did not receive the money in there for a few months. But in October, we did have 3 payrolls, and yet we still did get more receipts than disbursements for the month. So that fund is doing much, much better than it did a few years ago. 4710 is the self-insurance fund. And again, we did spend a little bit more than what we took in. But we did also make one claim the very, very end of October, which wasn't due till November, but there was an extra $100,000 that was paid that we could have held off till November, but we just paid it at the end of October. So, without that, it would have been, pretty much a break even, maybe not quite, month for that fund. And I think that was all I had on, and 8900, the CARES Act Provider Grant COVID is how it's listed there. And this is the fund where when we receive the CARES Act reimbursement, that all goes into here before it's then dispersed to different funds. So if you do see this one, we did put $4.4 million in there, so that is what we have received in the month of October. And we hopefully will be finishing this up in November to get all of the funds that we were allotted. And I think that is all I have. If there's any questions.
Any questions for Bob? Hearing none. Jennifer sent the treasurer's report via email, and she noted in an email she sent to me and Bob that they're about 80% done with collections thus far, and so they're exactly where they would expect to be this time of the year. So given the year we've had, that's actually a pretty good spot to be in. So any notes or things regarding the treasurer's report? Hearing none. Any public comment on agenda items before us this morning? All right, we'll move on to our consent agenda. Any items that need to be pulled from that? Or do I have a motion to approve as presented?
Mr. President, I'll move that we accept the consent agenda as written.
I'll second that.
I have a motion on the floor from Councilman Basham, a second from Councilman Murray to approve the consent agenda as presented. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? That is approved. Next up is additional appropriations for Superior Court 2.
Mr. President, move approval of the request for appropriation for Superior Court 2 pauper transcripts as presented.
I second that.
I have a motion on the floor from Councilman Winger, a second from Councilwoman Dolam to approve the additional appropriation for Superior Court 2 for $5,000 for the transcriptionist.
Anticipated the court might be here. They are not. They've obviously used this line item very responsibly in recent years. This year we budgeted $75,000. Bob, or can we double check that to make sure that they're out? I know Judge Meyer at budget review time indicated that he may have some year-end expenses in this line item. Did not talk to him, but would recommending approval today if indeed it looks like they're out of budget. Their 2021 budget is also $75,000 for this line item, and I think they've run to that if needed.
So right now, we've got, on the screen, you can see a little bit over here, the real-time balance is what we'll be looking at. The unposted is what the commissioners have not approved yet, or I guess it's close, they're not approving that, but it hasn't been paid yet. The $10,626 is what they have right now, out of the basically $70,000 they started with.
I'm guessing he's anticipating year-end bills, and he can't, since we can't appropriate next month, so still recommend approval.
Okay. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? That is approved. Next up, we have the coroner additional appropriation.
I'll make a motion that we approve the general fund appropriation for the coroner as presented.
I'll second that.
I have a motion on the floor from Councilwoman Vernon, a second from Councilman Murray to approve the additional appropriation for the coroner in the total amount of $15,071. Discussion.
Thank you. We keep getting busier and busier. This small office that's hidden away on 629 North 6th Street, we're doing 3 today, homicide, a suicide, and I forget what the third one was. So it keeps growing and growing. As Lafayette keeps growing, so do we. So I appreciate the extra money.
Okay, any additional discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? That is approved.
Thank you again.
Thank you, Donna. Next up, we have the additional appropriation for the surveyor.
Move for approval of Lit and Edit Fund 1112 appropriation as presented.
Second.
I have a motion on the floor from Councilwoman Hamilton, a second from Councilman Basham to approve the Edit Fund 1112 appropriation for the amount of $810,638 for culverts and ditches. Discussion.
Good morning, Zach Beasley, Tippecanoe County Surveyor. These monies are reimbursed from NDOT from a previous project that we did underneath Interstate 65 on the Alexander Ross regulated drain, which is immediately south of the 26 intersection with Interstate 65. We did it 2 years ago, I think, and NDOT had to reimburse us half through last fiscal year, and then they reimbursed us other half this fiscal year. and we just received the grand total here recently, and so I'm requesting that those drainage funds that have been historically appropriated in the Edith drainage culverts line item to be reappropriated in that so that we can continue to do additional drainage projects in the future. Happy to answer any questions.
And so on here, you can see, this is again off of our financial system, and the very first line there, the 810, that's showing that we did get a revenue in that we didn't budget, so that's where Zach is just appropriating what he received back.
I just have a question. I know on our, it says lit/edit. Is lit involved in that?
Well, lit is local income tax.
Yeah.
So we have different kinds of income tax. One that goes as distributor shares, that goes into the general fund, one which is EDIT, and one that is public safety. So they're all little lits because they're all income tax.
Right, that's what I thought. So is this lit still considered public safety since it's a
No.
culvert?
This is economic development.
Okay. Clear? Any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? That is approved.
Thank you.
Thank you, Zach. Next up, we have a laundry list of CARES Act reimbursements. And unless, Doug, you would say otherwise, I'll take those all as one motion. Is that appropriate? That's fine. Okay.
I'll make a motion that we approve the CARES Act reimbursement laundry list as presented.
Second.
Was that you, Roland?
Yes, it was.
Okay. I have a motion on the floor from Councilwoman Vernon, a second from Councilman Winger to approve the laundry list of CARES Act reimbursements as presented. Do we need to
These
go?
funds, we have received them all back. So
Yes.
nothing is still in the pipeline. This is money received.
Money received.
Yes.
So make note of that. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Those are all approved. Committee reports.
I've got just an update with Juvenile Detention Alternative Initiative. We met the other day and kind of found a correlation amongst some data when doing a data dive, and there's a subcommittee that has looked at that, and they are creating a strategy to help meet the needs of some of our youth, to help prevent them from getting into the system. And so hopefully they're successful with that. It's kind of a wraparound services similar to the FAST panels, but this is a precursor to the kids getting the system. So when the kids are showing themselves at school, there's indicators of maybe challenges at home. There's a variety of services going to be wrapped around the child before they hopefully reach the juvenile alternative system. So be interested to see how that shakes out in the next few months.
Very good. Okay, any other reports? Our 2021 council meeting dates are in your packet. Any discussion around any of those proposed dates?
We have to have these advertised before the end of the year, so that's why
Right.
you could tell us next month. And the only thing maybe of note, budget hearings are on there, the others are just the normal times. And then that evening public hearing, I assume you want to have one of those again in 21.
I would assume we made that a regular practice of late. Yeah. We want to continue that, I would think.
We did kind of move this back 1 week, the budget hearings.
Into the last week of August?
Yeah, I mean, the later we go, a little bit better information we have. This year, we had struggles with getting the lit numbers, but hopefully that won't be an issue next year, but it does help a little bit to get everything done.
If there aren't any questions or comments about that, well, if there are any issues, please let us know so we can get those taken care of. Council member assignments for departments and then appointments. Obviously, we've got some changes that will be taking place there, so we need to basically have that discussion prior to the first of the year, so we can have those all done and taken care of. So if there are any that people would like to switch around on, please let me know, and we'll move accordingly. Okay. That we need to discuss in the meeting or afterward? Okay, go ahead, Bob. What?
And I've got this up on the screen, and this is not in your packet, this is not a request for this meeting, and I don't want to vote or anything, but I have put together this form and submitted this to be considered next month at council. Talking to the budget director at the DLGF, Tippecanoe has never, and I didn't even know you could even do that, do an additional appropriation to revenue. And normally we would not have any need to do that. It's all just based on what we did at budget time. But now this year, we're going to have $5 or $6 million, $6 million, basically, that's going to go into the general fund. And if we need to do any additional appropriations in the month of December, which we probably will do some if they're COVID related. But anyway, and maybe I need to increase this number, but I was going to request additional appropriation to revenue of $5 million. Maybe I want to do $6 million, and that is one issue. And part of that would be, we had one conference call with a number of people with the state. David Bauer from Association of Indiana Counties, he certainly recommended that we put some of this CARES Act money into like I'm calling it a lit rainy day fund. We don't even have such a fund, but maybe we need to create one if we're going to do this, to hold some of this money back that we could then pull out in either 2022 or maybe even 2023, when we're going to see some decreases of our lit money coming in. So, because or else it's just going to push our cash balance up really, really high at the end of this year, make an uncommitted fund balance, which is going to be high. But this is just setting it aside. There's really, not a lot of difference, but we can just put it here, and then we can use in 2022, we can use this for some revenue into the general. That makes sense?
Is there a reason why do you want to just put it in the regular rainy day fund? Is there a reason to put it in a new fund?
Well, I would think it would be easier so that we know
Where it
what
came from?
what is the CARES Act extra money. We could put it into the regular rainy
Okay.
fund. I don't.
But it's to keep track of it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Bob, you mentioned this is composed as 5 million appropriation. It could be 6. What would you use? What information would you use to decide what that number would be that we'd actually look at next month?
Well, we have put some money into other, we have like 6.2 million to start with. Mm-hmm. We put some money into another fund. I just thought 5 million, that's going to be plenty, So I would have $1 million of revenue that would not be basically usable in 2020. I just wanted to have enough there. We've got a little bit of IT that we're going to, a little bit, like $500,000 that we're going to need to use. Whatever number, I think will be fine. 5 million, I think, would be enough. 6 million would be pretty much matching what we're going to be putting in the general fund of the CARES money. If we had 6.2, I don't know, probably somewhere close to a couple $100,000 we might put in other funds.
So it'd probably be better if we went ahead and handled this today versus waiting until
Well, we can't
December.
handle it today because we did not advertise it.
Okay.
So
Gotcha.
we will have this next month.
Okay. So for information for next month's
And
meeting.
it may not be 5
Okay.
and 2, but I was just thinking 2 million. I just pulled that out of the air for myself.
But net, for CARES Act compliance, we can only spend the 5 million is driven by what we're being reimbursed for.
Once it goes in the general fund, because it's basically reimbursement for salaries,
Right.
we can use that money for anything.
Okay, so we know
Doesn't
we've
have to
passed
be
the restriction,
publicly.
we passed any restriction
Right.
limits. Okay.
Okay. Any other questions regarding this? Hearing none, is there anything else, Bob, that you had? So please let me know on the assignments and appointments, we will work on getting those finalized here before the end of the year. Commissioner FYI.
I do not have much, other than the fact that is Tracy speaking? Okay. I will just comment that the county's United Way campaign is going on, so it's my annual plea. We're doing our campaign this year via e-pledge program, which is entirely new for the county, so typically we do it through our open enrollment meetings, and since we can't do those in person, we're doing the e-pledge program, so there are some incentives out there. So you should have all received an email through your county email, and we hope you'll consider a gift through the county's campaign. So we ask you to please consider that. The only other thing is today is Commissioner Byers' 60th birthday, so we all want to wish him happy birthday. So.
Okay, thank you, Tom. Any public comment? Hearing none, I'll take the last motion.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
We are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
Did you get this? Kathy?